All right, what's happening, everybody? Back again with another episode of Loans,
Liens,
and Listings. What? Today we got Charles Weinraub, the Handsome Homebuyer, one of the top LI flippers in New York. We got John Enriquez with Exit Family Realty here to discuss a little bit of home flipping.
Awesome. So I'm super excited. We have the #1 home flipper in the business here in Long Island. So just want to ramble off a couple questions.
Nice.
Don't laugh at me too much.
Nah. I appreciate you being here. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much for having me. This is cool.
Yeah, of course. So a lot of people want to get started in the home flipping business. They think it's easy. They see it on HGTV.
Yep.
What is pretty much, if someone wants to get started in the business, what's your first word of advice for those people out there?
#1 thing, education, 100%. Everybody sees it on TV. They think it's sexy because, you know, on those TV shows, everything goes from horribly wrong and they still make $1 million all in 30 minutes, right? The house looks like hell. They bought it wrong. Contract is leaving. But at the end, they do the math and they made a ton of money and everybody's happy, right? Not the case. You really need to get educated. I had a mentor that I trained with for almost 4 years before I even went out and made an offer on my first property. Best thing for people to do is to join the local RIAs, R-E-I-A, Real Estate Investment Associations. They have them all over the country. I belong to East Coast RIA out of Levittown. I met my mentor, Carl Chavone. I trained with him, and I've done over 400 houses in the last 5 years.
Wow. What do you use to analyze a deal, like to see if it's worth the investment? Is there any particular strategy that you're looking at, anything specific?
Yeah, so it depends on the deal, right? So it depends on, I do everything from, a basic fix and flip to a rental, to a multifamily, to a commercial development deal. And they're all different depending on what we're doing.
Right.
But for your basic fix and flip, during your education or my mentorship with Carl, I learned the equation, which is essentially how to figure out your maximum allowable offer. So you'll figure out what your after repair value is, or ARV. You'll subtract all the costs associated with buying, holding, renovating, and then of course profit, and that gets you to your maximum allowable offer. So whatever your investment strategy is, there's a formula, and then you'll learn how to do that by hand, and then you can build like an Excel spreadsheet of some kind that you could just pre-populate with the formulas,
Okay.
and then just pop it in. This way you can crank them out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, when you first got started to now, I'm sure, did you first start out with like just going off Angie's list with like a general contractor and just praying that they did the right thing? Did you ask around family, friends, and did you try to be your own GC and hire your own subcontractors? Like, where did you start and like where did it scale to now?
So a lot of people say, a lot of people think that money is the hardest part of being an investor. It's not. Contractors are definitely the hardest part of being an investor. So I hired a general contractor to do the first one, and he was a very nice guy and he meant well, but he was a mess. And I learned right then and there that if I was gonna scale this the way I wanted to, that I needed to control the process. So on my second project, I essentially opened up my own construction company, and that's it. So I have like 19 full-time construction employees, plus we have subcontractors. It got to the point where like I own my own permit business, my own property management business, my own kitchen cabinet business. Everything is vertically integrated so that we can do the volume.
Awesome. So when you're flipping a house, because I know you full gut mostly, you full gut rental everything?
For the most part.
From A to Z, like what's the first thing you do? Like obviously demo's the first thing, but then after that, like start to finish, what's usually the process of like how you kind of orchestrate it? Like are you doing electric plumbing first? Like are you doing the roof first? Are you doing new siding? Or are you just doing?
So the first thing is the planning phase of it. Like we know what we're gonna do before we can even get under contract. Once we get under contract, we're measuring, we're filing plans to get the permits as fast as humanly possible. And then we have, a system. Very similar to how anybody else would do it, nothing uniquely different or special about ours, is, the gut to all the roughing, insulation, sheetrock, finishing work on the market. It typically takes us approximately 8 weeks to do a full gut renovation from start to finish.
What are like the biggest headaches? I guess like your day-to-day of like flipping a house, like what would you say your biggest headache is, whether it's dealing with trying to get that initial deal and trying to get a deal under contract, or the stage of somewhere in the construction process? Like what do you think is the biggest headache overall from start to finish?
It's fucking pandemonium every day, dude. It really is. It's like, at any given time I think I have like 60 something houses under construction right now. So it's sheer madness all the time. I mean, there's a lot of issues, but at the end of the day, like I can't complain. It's an amazing business. You can do very well financially in it, like the freedom, the rush. It's a very cool thing. But there's headaches like anything. Like, bro, you're in the mortgage business. Mm-hmm. You deal with nonsense all day.
All the time.
All day. The entire process is nonsense. You're a real estate agent. Same thing, the entire process. So we all deal with it. But, for us, the townships are a really big problem.
Yeah.
Getting permits is a really big issue. It's very hard to, get quality help with everything going on. There's a lot of supply chain issues. It's hard to get material.
Especially during COVID, I bet too, right?
Yeah, it's just COVID just basically just made everything 10x worse.
Yeah.
So, but listen, at the end of the day, if you do it right, you can do very well. So I really can't complain about it.
Awesome. You love it?
I love it, man. I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
can tell.
For me, it's a means to an end. I'm not going to be doing this for that much longer. I want to open a private equity fund. That's my goal the next 3 years.
Very nice.
But it's been a great ride.
Now, I know you started Captain Permit. How did that kind of evolve? Because I know every time one of your signs is up, it coexists with Captain Permit.
Yep.
I don't know if that was like your favorite Halloween costume and you try to make it like Captain Permit, but if, I want to know how did it evolve? Is that like a separate side business, like that creates the madness, or is day to day where you have permit issues on houses that you're not maybe flipping, on people that need help for permit issues, or is it strictly for your flips?
So Captain Permit came out of necessity. I had tried every architect and expediter out there. They are an absolute nightmare. They don't pick up the phone, they don't call you back. A lot of them ran off with money. I probably lost like 30, 40 grand with architects and expediters that just disappeared into no man's land.
Jeez.
So with the volume that we do, I can't be waiting around for these people. So I opened up Captain Permit, and then I'm like, listen, I have an extensive network, and obviously everyone's having the same problem as me, so why not resell the service? So that's what I did. So
Okay.
Captain Permit exists primarily to service me, but it does have a lot of retail business.
Right, have you ever come to the point where, let's say you're flipping a house that's on the market, you have some type of CO that's not closed yet, would the buyer then in turn hire Captain Permit to close the permit, or is that something you would do?
We're always doing it. We do all the due diligence. We've been through all this stuff, so we know what's going on. It's very rare that we're gonna get a surprise there.
Okay.
If there's an open permit issue, we're dealing with it at the beginning. If a permit is stuck during the process, we have to hold an escrow and then take care of it after the closing. That happens sometimes too because the towns are just so slow.
Okay.
But no, general, a lot of realtors work with Captain Permit, mortgage people, attorneys, etc.
Okay, cool. Metaverse, you gonna flip in the metaverse? NFTs, what are we?
I don't know enough about the metaverse. There's so much stuff going on across the board. It's hard to keep up with all this stuff. I do learn a decent amount about NFTs. I think they're very interesting. They're here to stay. The metaverse is here to stay. I don't know if you guys, there were movies about this stuff maybe 15, 20 years ago. You guys might be too young, but now it's really happening, and it's gonna happen.
Ready Player One is kind of similar to that.
Which one is
I don't know, came out maybe 5 or 10 years ago. They were in this dystopian civilization, and there was a car racing.
Was that the one with Sandra Bullock and what's his name?
No, it was with a younger kid. I can't remember who was in it, but it was kind of similar. And when you take your VR glasses off, they're kind of in just chaos, But when they put that on, it's kind of like an escape.
Yeah.
And then they win races. They could win. I think they win tokens or win money or something like that. Check it out.
I
It's
put
pretty interesting.
I put VR glasses on one time because we're doing these 3D printed houses now.
Oh yeah.
So you design the house in virtual reality. So it was the first time I ever put it on. I'm like, oh, I know why, drug dealers are in trouble. I'm like, drug dealers are in trouble. And now I get it. I'm like, oh, I've never done drugs. I've never been drunk. I don't drink or anything. So I was like, oh, now I get it. You can basically be living any life you want.
Any life you want.
It is
wild.
Crazy shit.
Yeah, it's
Crazy.
wild. We were watching Netflix in a log cabin in Massachusetts.
So nuts.
Meanwhile, I'm in my living room.
Yeah, you want to see a
Ridge, you know?
concert, you want to see your favorite musician.
Yeah.
You're sitting front row. He's 2 feet away
It's wild.
in virtual reality. So yeah, no flipping in the metaverse right now.
No flipping?
You
Not
don't know.
yet?
We don't know.
I think I just saw a property went for 1.2 million in the metaverse recently. Actually, something crazy like that. It's
Dude,
wild.
I don't know. I don't get it. But it's the real deal.
Captain Permit NFT?
Captain Permit NFT, Handsome Homebuyer NFT. You never know what the
Contour
future's
mortgage
gonna bring.
NFT, exit realty, whatever.
There you go.
I know you said your goal was to flip 200 houses this year.
Yeah.
How many homes is the goal before you start private equity till you call it a day?
We're gonna do 200 houses this year or next year. I have an in-house sales team that we're building. We're ramping up the marketing like crazy. I'm doing a lot of new construction subdivision stuff. So before I leave to go to private equity, I want to feel like I was the best to ever do this.
Okay.
And for me, if you do 200 houses in New York in this market, I think you're the best or one of the best to ever play that game.
Oh, without a doubt.
It's wild.
What do you think the hardest part is finding that deal? Is it the driving for dollars? Is it your business, and especially in this seller's market, to find a listing, since it's not even a listing essentially because you're buying it off the market. So many people, especially in my industry, are knocking on everybody's door, calling every expired, calling every for sale by owner. What separates you to do 200 like transactions like to get that volume to
So
flip?
I would kind of argue that most people aren't putting the work in. Like a lot of people might say they're doing it, but they're really not. Because the men and women that are putting in a lot of work are doing a lot of business. You know, Brian Carr, realtor, 205 houses a year. I mean, there's a lot of people, investor doing 70 to 110 houses a year. But then there's always people that are saying, you know, investors saying they can't find deals or agents saying they can't find listings. I mean, you work hard, you do deals, you know.
Right.
If you put in the work, you're gonna get it.
Right. All right, cool. You have any more questions?
No, I think we just about covered everything. Anything left you got to say?
Who else was your biggest inspiration? I know Gary Vee's a big influence for you. Is there somebody that you haven't met, like such as Gary Vee, that's like your inspiration that kind of pushes you, like motivates you every day?
No, not so much. I kind of like, I just like playing the game with myself. The Gary Vee thing, like, I like him. I've learned a lot from him. He's definitely helped my business. The Gary Vee thing is more of a, I do stuff to kind of show, you know, people locally that, so, all right. I grew up in Wantagh. Where'd you grow up?
West Babylon.
Okay, where'd you grow up?
We're in Kokomo.
Okay, so I grew up in Wantagh. Same neighborhood, right? All like upper white middle class type areas. We went to good schools. By national standards, we had everything, right?
Right.
You know, we went to camp, we did this, we played sports, whatever. Like, we were privileged. But for all that, like, think about how many kids you grew up with that are really doing something great, right? Not to say, like, there's doctors, lawyers, teachers, whatever. Nothing wrong with any of that stuff, right? But I think when we came up, it's kind of like, you get the good job, you go out, you do that, you're successful, you have a family, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, like, how many people do you see reaching for the unattainable, like the perceived unattainable? So I like to show people kind of like in a very public social media setting that anything's possible. So if I sit there for 572 days and I'm like, Gary Vee, and then Gary Vee and I are gonna podcast. There's no question in my mind we're gonna podcast. Like, either he's gonna die, I'm gonna die, or we're gonna podcast. There's no in between. I think that's a very powerful message to whoever follows me. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
To have watched that journey and then see it come to fruition, because I had limiting beliefs being younger, and there was somebody that I saw fail but take a shot at something that I perceived to be impossible, and that changed my mindset forever.
Yeah, because you can tell you believe it. You know, it's
Yeah,
not
no
just
question.
something that you're saying, like you own it.
Oh no,
right?
he's gonna
And
die, I'm gonna die, or we're gonna do it. That's it. Those are the only three things that are gonna happen.
That's the best part, man. That's great.
Yeah, man.
It'll be awesome. Cool.
No, I appreciate you coming down here. It was a shot in the dark. It was the same thing. I thought I was going to have to literally hold up a sign for 572 days.
It's an honor. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It was great to meet both of you.
Absolutely,
You too,
Charles.
sir.
Thank you so much for coming through.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. And I hope you all enjoyed everything. And again, feel free to reach out for all your home financing needs. I'm Michael Romano with Contour Mortgage, John Enriquez, Exit Family Realty, and this is the Handsome Homebuyer, Charles Weinraub, one of the top flippers on Long Island. Take care, everybody.